Hello everyone, welcome to the channel. This is the Nomad TCG, and I'm going to be bringing you guys my first video. And this video is going to be my deck profile for Cardfight Vanguard. This is my Dark Irregulars deck profile. This is an entire V Series deck. I know V Series isn't the main format anymore, but it was always my favorite. And I always wanted a Dark Irregulars deck, so I decided to build one. Obviously, this deck is very focused on Sharo Vampire, and because it is a Dark Irregulars deck, it is definitely going to be focusing on building up the soul for stronger attacks and multiple attacks in the same turn. So we'll go ahead and get started, and starting off with the grade 3s, we are going to be running 4 copies of Sharo Vampire. Its effect is at the beginning of your turn, if you have, or actually at the beginning of your battle phase, all your front row units gain 1,000 power until the end of turn for each card in your soul. So it doesn't matter how many cards you have in your soul, it gains 1,000 power for each. So there's a rough chance, because this is a Dark Irregulars deck, you could potentially get 15 to 20,000 power for all of your front row units. Just because of its effect. And then for its secondary effect, when it attacks, counterblast 1 and stand one of your front row rear guards. If your soul has 13 or more cards, you stand 2 rear guards instead of 1. So this is definitely going to be focusing on very powerful attacks, and also getting multiple attacks in one turn. A way this can be played is you could attack with both of your rear guard units, then attack with Sharo Vampire, counterblast 1, stand both of them, and then if you draw triggers, then you can give those triggers to your rear guards. So definitely a very handy skill for this deck to have. For the next set of grade 3s, we're going to be running 4 copies of Bladewing Reiji. Bladewing Reiji is not the main focus of this deck, obviously, but it is also a great backup grade 3. Because it has multiple effects depending on how many cards you have in your soul. So for its first effect, if your soul has 10 or less cards, you can soul blast 1, choose a card from your soul and bind it face down, which will play into this effect down here at the bottom. For its continuous effect, you can gain all of the following according to the number of face down cards in your bind zone. If you have 5 or more cards, this unit gets 5,000 power, which is also effective in your opponent's turn as well. So that's a base 17,000 power for your Vanguard. If you have 7 or more, during your turn, this unit gets 10,000 power and plus 1 drive track. So that's 22,000 power plus a triple drive. And then if it has 10 or more cards, during your turn, this unit gains 10,000 power and a critical. Again, it's going to be a very powerful Vanguard attack with multiple crits. And for its last effect, when this unit attacks, if your bind zone has 15 or more face down cards, choose one of your opponent's Vanguards and deal 2 damage. So again, maximizing the amount of damage that you could do in one turn to your opponent's Vanguard. For the next part of the grade 3s, we're going to be running 2 copies of Demon Eater. When your Guardian is called, you may put that unit into your soul. So instead of putting it into your trash or your drop zone, you can just add it to your soul, and you can build it up just a little bit more, which is always useful if you're running a Dark Irregulars deck. And then for its second effect, when it attacks, you counterblast 1 and put one of your other rear guards into your soul and draw a card. And until the end of that battle, this unit gains 10,000 power. Then soul blast 10, and your opponent cannot call sentinels from his or her hand. Again, maximizing damage using the soul, and your opponent not being able to call sentinels from their hand is very useful, especially if you draw 2 criticals from your twin drive. So for the last set of grade 3s, this is the last of the grade 3s, we're running 2 copies of Abominable One, Guild de Ray. When it's placed, counterblast one and call a grade 2 or less card from your soul to your rear guard. Whittling down the soul just a little bit, but if your formation is in trouble, definitely using this effect will help a lot. And when this unit attacks, whether it's on Vanguard or rear guard, if your soul has 10 or more cards, choose one of your opponent's rear guards and tiring it. This will be useful if your opponent has any intercepts. That can also gain more power as well, or more shield whenever they intercept. So just also trying to maximize the amount of damage you can do to your opponent. Moving on to the grade 2s, we're going to be running 4 copies of Emblem Master. When you place it on rear guard or guardian, if your soul has 7 or more cards, this unit gains 5,000 power and a 5,000 shield. Boosting up your formation, not necessarily in the sense of calling more units, but just giving them more power. And then also, this will definitely help with guarding your opponent's attacks, especially if you're playing against a clan like Tachikaze. If you play an Ancient Dragon deck in Tachikaze, your opponent is definitely going to be having some major power-ups with their Vanguards and their rear guards concerning front triggers. And then for its effect, when placed on Vanguard or rear guard, you counterblast 1 and search your deck and drop zone for up to 3 cards of the same name, and then adding them to your soul. So this is a very good way to bump up your soul in the early game, preparing for cards like Sharo Vampire, Bladewing Reiji, and Demon Eater. So this is the main grade 2 that you're going to be trying to get. Moving on to the next set of grade 2s, we're going to be running 4 copies of Demon Ted Executioner. When this unit is placed on Vanguard or rear guard, counterblast 1 and soul charge 3. If you soul charge 1 or more trigger cards, you draw a card. So every deck is given 16 triggers. There's a pretty good chance that you're going to soul charge a trigger when you do this effect, and then drawing a card so you have more cards to either guard with or call to your rear guard circles is very useful. And when this unit attacks a grade 2 or greater unit, this unit gains 5,000 power until the end of that battle. So very useful card. For the next set of grade 2s, we're going to be running 2 copies of Prognos Dre. When it's placed on Vanguard or rear guard, when it attacks, if your soul has 5 or more cards, look at the top card of your deck, and you may put that card into your soul. So again, boosting up the soul, because this is a Dark Irregulars deck. Moving on to the grade 1s, we're going to be running 4 copies of Succubus of Pure Love. When it's placed on Vanguard or rear guard from your hand, look at the top 5 cards from the top of your deck, reveal up to 1 grade 3 from among them, put it into your hand, and then shuffle your deck. If you put a card into your hand, discard a card from your hand. This is a very good way to get a grade 3 of any kind. Obviously, any one of these grade 3s will work. It's a very useful effect if you brick on your first hand, whether you draw, all nothing, or you just need to get maybe an extra grade 3 for your rear guard circles as well. Moving on to the next set, we're running 4 copies of Yellow Bolt. On the rear guard circle, when this unit attacks a grade 2 or greater, you soul charge 1, and this unit gets 5,000 power until the end of that battle. So very good for rear guard attacks. The only downside is that it doesn't have an intercept. I think honestly Yellow Bolt would be greater as a grade 2 instead of a grade 1. And then its other effect, when it is rolled upon, soul charge 2. If you soul charge 1 or more trigger units, draw a card. So pretty much kind of the same as Demon Ted Executioner, except it happens whenever you ride instead of calling it your rear guard. Moving on to the last of the grade 1s, we're going to be running 3 copies of Edge in the Darkness. When placed, draw a card and put a card from your hand into your soul. And then for its rear guard effect, When placed, soul charge 1, and if this unit was placed by your card's ability, counter charge 1. So this would help a lot with Sharo Vampire and its effect whenever you counterblast 1 and then send 2 of your rear guards. So that is another way to kind of maybe prolong Sharo Vampire's effect for the late game. And then moving on to the grade 1s, the starter is going to be just Vermilion Gatekeeper. Because this is the V Series, the starter grade 1s, or grade 0s, don't have any special effects other than when rode upon, draw a card. I prefer this one as opposed to the Quick Shield one just because Quick Shield really only works if you go second, and I prefer to go first. Moving on to the triggers. Triggers are pretty simple. This is going to be actually all critical triggers, so we're running 12 crits in this deck with 4 copies of One-Eyed Succubus, which is also your Sentinel for this deck, 3 copies of Blitz Ritter, and 4 copies of Dark Knight of Nightmare Land. Critical triggers, they don't really matter which ones you use as long as they are critical. And to finish off the grade 0s and the rest of the deck, 4 copies of Alice of Nightmare Land. This is just your obviously just your heal trigger, nothing special. So that is actually the whole deck. Definitely a fun deck to play. I've played it a bunch of times in casual matches and stuff against other people who play the V Series still. But it's just a lot of fun to play. I always wanted a Dark Irregulars deck when I was younger, and now that I have money of my own, it's a lot. It's pretty easy to build. It's also pretty much a budget deck as well. The only expensive cards in here, I think, are Sharo Vampire, and I think actually that's about it. Every other card in here is a pretty cheap card to get. With Sharo Vampire, I think still costing $5 to $7 per copy, and then you also obviously you need 4 of them for a full playset if you really want this deck to work. And then just a little extra, these are my gift markers for Protect. I always liked this art, I don't know why. For decks that I built myself, which is just a few, the Dark Irregulars deck, a Pale Moon deck, and an Angel Feather deck, I always choose to have these gift markers just because I think they look really nice. Anyways, that was the video. Thank you guys for tuning in to the first video on the Nomad TCG channel. I'm going to be posting a lot more card games. This isn't just going to be a Vanguard channel. I'm going to post One Piece, and I'm going to post Pokemon, obviously Cardfight Vanguard, maybe a little bit of Yu-Gi-Oh, and the Digimon TCG as well. So thank you guys very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.